In this video, I'm going to share the key to unlocking your potential. I've done it personally, so I want to share exactly that framework and how you can do it too. Think about the time when you're like, I can't believe being that high of a level, right? So at the time of recording, like if you're talking Elon Musk, if you're talking Donald Trump, if you're talking Jeff Bezos, if you're talking Mark Zuckerberg, like all of these folks, right? Like top class billionaire, like there's only so many per se, right? At least now. In the future, these billionaires, it's going to be replaced with the word trillionaires, and a lot of millionaires will become billionaires just from how currencies work. Point being that that's that strata, right? If we say, hey, there's 3,000 billionaires in the world out of 8 billion people, then yeah, like it's possible to be them. And the probability, it's not that it's zero. It's not about the chances being zero. It's just a fact of, okay, if you have potential in you, just like any human, and if we're all created equal, then we all have potential. Now I understand, right? Like demographics from like a geography perspective, countries, systems, what is what, some cultures that may not even value money, like what is success? What is your potential, right? So I'm talking about it from a business perspective where I would say like whatever you're trying to achieve, or even if it's a hobby perspective or a skill, I think is the best way to put it for this context. I would say that, how would you do it? I'll give you my case. I love to beatbox. I've been beatboxing since 2007, which is crazy. So it's like 20 years if you think about it that way, which is wild. Just think out loud and say out loud, like, holy crap. The point being, when I started, I didn't even think about like where I would end up. And so like the outcome basically first, and I'll tell you the path, was that, at a very high level, I basically went from someone who was like, understood from a friend. They were like doing a talent show with them and their brother. And, they were doing like Super Mario on stage where it was like one brother doing the beat and one brother doing the melody. So for example, like, do 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 do, and the other person doing the beat. So like together, like do 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 do. So not perfect there, some, freestyle, I guess, but you get the point, right? And I was like, yo, how do you do that, right? And, they just said like, hey, the basics are boots and cats. So like, and I was like, okay, I couldn't do it. All I could do was like, and I just ran with it in the sense of those were the basics. And then I learned kind of the next step from just other people that were around me. And then the internet was, always around since when it was per se, but then it was coming up where there were forums, YouTube was there, where there's videos where folks are like, there's beatbox battles and beatbox showcases and, just like performances and busking like on the street where there's this like street performing. And I was like, just enthralled with this, right? So I went from being kind of inspired to then learning a few, what are the basics? And then from the basics, I basically went to, hey, there's basically this formalized, system, just like music, like you have certain notes where you have like sheets of music. Here we have like, hey, there's, B, T, K, which is, and like a snare, like, or, and like how it all comes together, right? So the point being then it went from learning the skill to then getting better at the skill and then understanding like there are events where people compete like the Olympics and then like competing in those like countrywide championships to then like literally having America's largest international beatbox event multiple years in a row. And then on top of that, when the pandemic happened, basically going online to then the world champs equivalent. So the story I go to say is unlocking your potential or unleashing it or achieving it or all the fancy words, right? Literally, I just told you that I went from zero to literally the top of the top. And I'm not saying I'm the world champion of beatbox, but it's like the equivalent, but for instead of like the person competing, imagine the platform that it's on. So for example, if this video is on YouTube, right, then it's like instead of being the best video creator, it's literally like owning YouTube. Like if just saying that out loud is like crazy to just think about. And I'm sharing this because if you told little old me at like, 12 years old or something, like, hey, in the future, this is what's going to happen. I mean, I don't even know. Back then I was really immature. And the point is I wouldn't believe it, but I wasn't even striving for it. And that's part of the beauty. Part of the beauty is being so inquisitive, so curious as, maybe corporate or high level or however you want to say like these type of thoughts are, it's the truth. Because when you're curious, when it's not like, hey, I'm doing X for Y. So in other words, I'm not working X hours to get this much income or this much money, or I'm not, doing a transaction-based process. What that means is what? That means you're literally doing it because you want to. And however far you want to push yourself, that's not my choice to say, hey, go this far. It's going to be you saying, I went this far, I want to go further. And if you don't want to go further, I mean, It's up to you. And that's really the inflection point of how you're going to achieve your potential. Because to me, I used to answer this question, and apparently it's a wrong answer, and I understand now why. But when I was interviewing for like corporate America jobs back in the day, this was like internships. I was in college. I didn't know any better. I didn't know any frameworks, nothing. I was lucky to get an interview for an internship. They wanted me to move to Florida for $12 an hour, which is ridiculous when now that I know more, instead of just working like a job, basically like without any degree whatsoever. The point being that they basically said, what does success mean to you? And I said success, and I took it from an individual perspective because I didn't know about, hey, working with teams or like how corporate is and nothing. I was like, success is doing better than the previous iteration that you performed. So in other words, if you did 5 times reps of something, doing 6 reps in the next iteration is success because you beat your previous self, you beat your prior self. And I answered it very honestly as if it was, how do I define success? Like, of course, right? That's the interview question. How do you define success? And it's like, I guess the corporate answer would be, oh, success would be, that I'm able to contribute my value to the firm and to people around me. And like, I'm not saying it's wrong, right? But I just didn't know the bigger picture. And that's fine. Let's leave that point aside. So for us to succeed and see through our potential, I would say that it's all about knowing what you want with clarity is one way. So at least you have that north guiding star, as they call it, the North Star. And when I got to the position in the beatbox community, you could say, right, like of where I became, where I ended up, it's not like I was wanting to replace the biggest person and that's how I succeeded. I wasn't being competitive like that. I was thinking more from like a broker perspective, like the central point of how can I connect all the constituents and give them the best experience. And it wasn't about doing the biggest event or, the top class event or, because we're in America, like, of course, America has its, as an American, I can say like, yeah, America, right? Like we're number one in certain things. And of course, in beatbox, it went from, America's origins to then, France, Korea, Japan, like all these folks just being that much, top class at what they do. The point is unlocking your potential and seeing it through. It's up to you how far you want to take it because it's literally not like hard or not. It's how hard you want to make it. If you think something's hard, it's going to be hard. If you think it's easy, it's easy. For example, I used to question myself when I was younger. How can I make money without, spending any time? And that's all I knew at the world at the time. No, nothing about like investing, stock market, crypto, dividends. What is Social Security? Social Security is a bunch of money that's invested and it's having some type of yield on it. And based on inflation, to also give you more money each and every year. But I knew nothing about like, oh, this is how the market works. This is how like the world works and money works. I knew nothing. Okay. So I thought, okay, you make $1 by trading your time for money. So is that good or bad? Well, it's up to you how to look at it. But I was like, there's no way you can make $1 without, spending your time. It's impossible to make money without spending your time. So then I used to ask the next question. How do you make $1 million a year? And traditionally, because that's all I knew and that's how the system trains you and I can't blame it or not. It's about when you know it, what is your next step? Then you can only blame yourself and all the things, right? But let's save that for a different video. So subscribe if you came this far. But the point here is what? It's simple, man. If you think something is easy, you can do it. If you think something's hard, you can still do it. So the $1 million a year, if you break it down to 50 weeks in a year, let's say 2 weeks you're not working, I didn't understand paid time off. So I thought, oh, if you're not working, you don't get paid. So then 50 weeks times 40 hours in a week. So like 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, 8 hours, right? So 40 hours times 50 weeks is 2,000 hours. 2,000 hours times what makes $1 million? Start doing that math. I believe it's $500 times 2,000 is going to give you $1 million. That's right. So $500 an hour, which I used to think nobody, this is the crazy thing, right? Unlocking the potential, because I used to think $500 an hour, nobody, like, and I thought from my lens, I would never pay anybody $500 an hour to do whatever. Because my mind at the time was save, be frugal, be whatever you want to call it, cheap, oh, hey, it's not cheap, it's frugal, whatever, right? Semantics aside, the point is what? I was so close to thinking, wow, why not spend $1 million to make 10 million? I never even thought about that. Just because that's just where my mind was, like where I was programmed, you could say. So in the end, unlocking the potential is understanding, well, if you want to make $1 million and you cannot trade your time for it, then I thought, how can you do it? So then slowly, very super fast forward, I got to know, oh, hey, how do you make, $100,000 online, let's say, right? So you could, hey, we're speaking right now, right? Hey, there's, 1,000 subscribers, for example, and you sell $100 product that you would hope, is enough value for 100. or even more, ideally, right? So then 100 times 1,000 sales is $100,000. Now, if you have 1,000 subscribers, and it's not like all 1,000 convert, like, makes sense, right? But if you have, let's say, 100,000 subscribers, a 1% conversion rate, now you have, in other words, 1,000 people buying said product or service or what have us at a $100 price point. Now you just made 6 figures online, right? Sounds simple, and it's a concept of 1,000 loyal fans. You can Google it. But all of this, right, coming back full circle, unlocking your potential is not that deep. It's literally understanding, like, do you want it or not? And if you want it, what is the minimum, or rather the most important next step that you can take towards it? And are you willing to do it? That's literally the whole video here could be summarized in, what do you need to do next? Do you want to do it? Even if you do or not, who cares? Are you willing to do it? Are you willing and able, as they say, right? Are you willing and able to help in the case of an emergency or whatever, right? If you're boarding a plane. So are you willing? Are you able? Chances are most people are able to, but are they willing? That is the key differentiator. And if you're willing and able, then take the damn step, right? And if you can do that, and then do the next step, and then do the next step, and do the next step, your potential is going to be not a potential anymore. It's going to be a finite outcome, and there's going to be a new potential. So with that, thanks for coming to the end. Make the next step happen if you're watching this video this far, because there's no reason not to. And if you don't, I'm not saying you won't unlock your potential, but you know what you're signing up for on the opposite case. Good luck. We'll see you soon. Peace.